Hello everybody and welcome to this fourth video on my personal journey with our religion. Today I shall be speaking about the two sermons of Zarathustra which are there in the Gathas. The first one being in Yasna30, which evidently is to a small band of followers, and the next one is in Yasna45, which is to a much larger group. Now, the beauty of these two yasnas is that in the verses, the entire essence of the religion is captured. And so, what I will do is I will just read out the relevant verses which appeal to me and which, according to me, just cover the entire gamut of what our religion stands for. So, let's start with Yasna30. And I'm essentially going to be reading from the book of the Gathas, which I've been using all along by Tarapurwala. Now to those eager, shall I speak of the two who are created by Mazda. All this teaching is for the wise. And I shall recite hymns unto Ahura and praises of Vahumano. I shall explain the sacred lore of Asha as well, so that ye may attain unto perfection in the realms of light. And this is the core. This is in a way the curtain raiser. And Zarathustra speaks of the two. And what are these two is now explained in the next verse, which, according to Dr. Sidhwa, is perhaps one of the most oft-quoted verse of the Gathas. Listen with your ears to the highest truths. Consider them with your mind illumined. Before deciding between the two paths, man by man for his own self, before this great ushering in, wake ye each one and spread this message. And this is where, for the first time perhaps in the entire history of civilization at that point in time, was the whole concept of dualism so beautifully explained. And there are two things here. One is, of course, the dualism which he talks about, which is basically the two paths, and we will see more about that later. But more than that, what Zarathustra says in this stanza, which is a core to our religion, is that it is a very deep personal choice which every person needs to make. Religion is a personal choice. Man by man, each for his own self. Now, here, of course, man is both for man and woman and all gender. But there is the concept that it's a conscious personal choice made by each one of us. And which path to choose is a personal choice. And then, of course, as the yasna goes on, Zarathustra explains why righteousness is the right path to choose and why the evil path is not the right path to choose. But in this stanza, the whole concept of dualism and the fact that religion is a personal choice comes through quite clearly. Then it continues. Now in the beginning were these two spirits who have revealed themselves, twins well working, in their thoughts and in their words, and also in their deeds. These two show themselves as good and bad. And of these two, the wise rightly do choose, but not so the unwise. So choosing the right path is a matter of wisdom. And now when these two spirits together did foregather, they created first of all life and non-life. And thus creation's purpose shall be fulfilled. The worst for the followers of untruth, but for the followers of truth, the best state of mind. So Zarathustra is further re-emphasizing or reinforcing the point of choosing the right path and the reasons thereof. Then I go to Yasna 30.6, where he talks about, of the two, Devas chose not right. And in Nariman's book, he talks about Devas as the worshippers of many gods. And we all know that connection to Hinduism. For nearer to them, the deluder did come up when they stood in doubt. Thus they chose the worst thought, and then with him they rushed away to wrath, and thus did they pollute mortal life. So here Zarathustra is very clearly talking about a set of people, the Devas, who have made the wrong choice. And they have made the wrong choice because they have been deluded into making that right choice and are now following the wrong path. Then it, of course, goes on to reinforce the choice of the right path and the perils of choosing the wrong path. And I will now go straight to Yasna 30.11, which is the concluding yasna, where Zarathustra clearly says, for ye understand these laws, which Mazda hath ordained, O mortal men, the laws of happiness and the laws of pain, namely, age-long punishment for the followers of untruth, and upward progress for the upholders of truth. Then through these laws, illumination shall come nearer to you. And this, in essence, talks about dualism, about religion being a personal choice, which each one of us has to make. And then most importantly, what happens if you choose the right path and what happens if you choose the wrong path. Now, let me read to you from this book, The Zen Avastha, which is translated by L.H. Mills, his interpretation of Yasna 30. And I'll read a few paragraphs of it, which just shows to illustrate what a great thinker and what a great philosopher Zarathustra was. He then delivers the earliest statement of dualism which has come down to us. There were two original spirits, and they are called, be it well noted, not two persons, or at least not only two persons, but a better thing, or principle, and a worse one. So these are concepts, the better one and the worse one. These two spirits came together as by natural combination to make the opposing phenomena of life and its absence, of heaven and of hell. And hell is described not as a scene of cruelty inflicted upon the innocent and the ignorant, and this is very important, but as the worst life, and heaven as equally remote from a superstitious paradise, that is, as the best mental state. Now, these statements have a very deep implication of how great a thinker and philosopher Zarathustra was. And then Mills goes on to say, this is proper Zarathustra creation. It is undeniably abstract, very and just in proportion as it lacks color and myth are its depths visible. The point and meaning of the entire doctrine is that a good God cannot be responsible for permanent evil, that imperfection and suffering are original and inherent in the nature of things, and permanently so. And now, this is the line which captures it best. The swallowing up of sin and sorrow in ultimate happiness belongs to a later period. It is not Gothic Zarathustranism. Evil was the work of an independent being. And this essentially is the essence of Yasna30, where Zarathustra expounds the whole concept of dualism, of personal choice, and of the rewards of taking the right path. And these rewards are not some beautiful picture of heaven, but of the best mental state. And the sort of bane of choosing the wrong life, which is being called the worst life. Now, when we move on to Yasna 45, in Yasna 45, he's evidently talking to a much larger audience, and the commentary is a lot more definitive. I will start by reading the first stanza of Yasna 45, which gives you an idea of why I'm saying that it is perhaps to a larger audience. It starts off, and I will explain now. Give ye ear now. Listen to me. Do ye listen. Both those who from near and from afar are desirous of hearing. And now bear in mind all these things clearer indeed. Never again shall the evil teacher destroy life. Through his wrong choice, the followers of untruth has gone astray in his talk. So here he's very clearly talking about the fact that never again will the evil teacher, whoever is guiding people to evil, will ever succeed, because Zarathustra is delivering the sermon. And then throughout the Yasna, up to Yasna 45.7, Zarathustra talks about, builds it up as to what is the inspiration and where is his source of knowledge coming from in order to deliver the sermon. Now, I won't go through all those stanzas, but whoever is interested can sort of message me and I can certainly share those with you. But we go to Yasna 45.7, where finally he sort of expounds the philosophy, as it were, through whom the seekers have been seeking for redemption. All seekers who are living and have been and shall be, past, present, and future, the soul of righteous shall triumph in immortality. Ever renewed, indeed, are the tribulations of the human follower of untruth. Of these, indeed, is Mazda Aura, the sender through his power. Now, let me read this para once again from what Rohinton Nariman has written, which I think is a much better sort of version of exactly what he means to say in this. So Rohinton writes about Yasna 45.7, which is the core of the Yasna. To all seekers of salvation, past, present, and future, I have this to say. The soul of the righteous will be victorious, and will gain immortality. Ever renewed are times of trouble for those who are evil. This is sent by God through his power. And this is where Zarathustra makes it very clear that if you choose the right path, eventual immortality is yours. And if you choose the wrong path, ever renewed are times of trouble. You will constantly be affected and afflicted with trouble for those who are evil. This is sent by God through his power. I'm merely the speaker, but this is sent by God through his power. And this is the crux of the Yasna 45.7. And this is exactly the teaching which Zarathustra sort of imparts to the large gathering. And what I'll do now is, I will end with Yasna 45.8, where for the first time we are introduced to three words which in later on those become slightly different, are the core, and every Parsi, Zoroastrian, everyone who follows the religion knows these three words. But they're interpreted differently here, or they sound different here. And this is Yasna 45.8, perhaps the most important from our day-to-day lives point of view. And it says, and again I'm reading Rohinton's version, him do I seek to praise in all humility. Indeed, I have seen him with my mind's eye. This is Zarathustra speaking to the audience. Him do I praise, seek to praise in all humility. Indeed, I have seen him with my mind's eye. By good thought, deed, and word, and by knowledge brought about by the path of truth, have I perceived God himself. Let us therefore offer songs of devotion to him in the abode of song where God dwells. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and through the path of Asha, the path of knowledge, brought about to the path of truth, I have perceived God himself. And this is why Humata Hukta Varashta is the core of our daily prayers. Every child has been taught this, because as in Yasna 45.8, it is through good thoughts, good words, and good deeds that Zarathustra perceived God himself. Now, just as a small piece of information, the words Humata Hukta Huvarashta are not there in the Gathas. The word Vanguish, which is good. So there is Vanguish. And then it is Mainyaush. Manyaush is thought. So Vanguish good and Mainyaush thought. Stothanaya. No, Shothanaya. Sorry. Shayot Thanaya, which is word, which is deed, and Vya, which is word. So these are the three words. Sorry, I can't get the pronunciation right. So it's Mainyosh, Shoyothanaya, and Dakvya, which is good thought, deed, and word. And Cha means and. These are the three words that are used in Yasna 45.8. And if you see the concepts explained in Yasna 30 and in Yasna 45, according to my very limited understanding, but according to my limited understanding, this is the core of our religion. Two paths. Every person has to decide which path to take. Call on religion is an individual call, person to person. If you take the good path, then you get the best state of mind, and eventually it leads to immortality. If you take the evil path, you get what he calls the worst life, and troubles will keep coming your way. And at the end it says that the path to God is through righteousness and through good thought, good word, and good deed. Umata Mukta Uvarsha. And that's all I have as far as Yasna30 and Yasna45 are concerned. For the next session, I will do a little bit of research and speak about a concept which comes into our daily lives as Parsi Zoroastrians or as Zoroastrians, and that is the concept of Sarosh. And Sarosh in the Gathas is expressed as obedience and as our conscience. And we shall talk a little more about our Sarosh in the next session. Until then, thank you.